the point of this podcast is going to be to bring you a lot of chaos-themed content that you don't normally see on a podcast, that you don't normally see on YouTube. If you look at a lot of the popular podcasts or channels, there are usually 0 Chaos players on there, which is crazy when you think about Chaos Space Marines, Death Guard, Thousand Suns, Chaos Daemons, Renegades and Heretics, which I also have some of, and I thought maybe I could start a podcast to fix that. So, I'm sorry if there's quality issues or audio issues or stuttering tonight. This is brand new to me. I'm trying it on my worst laptop tonight. If that doesn't work, I'll go on a much beefier computer from now on. I'm not a pro at streaming. I'm not a pro at YouTube. I'm not a pro at Photoshop. So this is all work in progress. If you've ever seen any other YouTube channel, you know that there's a lot of technological progress and quality progress as the channel evolves, and this is not going to be any different. So if when I record this, or if you're watching live right now, there's some quality issues, I'm sorry about that. We will fix it as we go on. This is going to be a learning experience for me, but the only way to learn and to improve the stream quality for you guys is just to try it. And so if it doesn't work, post a comment in the video comments. I will read them, or post on my Facebook page or my Instagram page. Send me a private message on Facebook. I'll respond. But I appreciate your patience. So let's get into it. I posted across a lot of different places a few hours ago the latest leaks from Shadowspear, which is the Malefic set of powers, which is the new set of psychic powers for the Master of Summoning. The big scary guy that's floating and looks like he has a ram head and is basically an awesome miniature that I'm sure a lot of you guys are also going to pick up. And if you saw some of the leaks that have come out in the last few days, which are all on my Facebook page, you saw the data sheets. We don't know the points cost yet, but we do know the data sheets. And right now, the Master of Summoning is basically just a Chaos Sorcerer with a 5+ invulnerable save and maybe some different keywords. So not that impressive. So I shared the leaks of the Obfuscation Vanguard Space Marine Librarian powers yesterday. I thought they were pretty good, but I was really pessimistic about whether the Malefic Tree, the new Chaos Psychic discipline, was going to be any good. And if you're anything like me, I know a lot of Chaos players are pretty skeptical most of the time when it comes to Chaos releases. There have been a few things that were pretty good. I thought a lot of these 7th edition formations were pretty good, like Wrath of Magnus and stuff. I have all those rules. I have the limited editions. I was pretty bummed a lot of them didn't last longer than 6 or 12 months before they rebooted the game. But I really thought there was a period where we had some cool stuff, and then a lot of 8th edition has been a disappointment. Chaos was pretty good in competitive play when no one else really had a codex, and there were a handful of units that people really abused, like Malefic Lords or 2-point Brimstone Horrors with 4 invulnerable saves. But a lot of that stuff went by the wayside pretty quickly. When other people got their codexes, nerfs came out. You couldn't really run Magnus or Mortarion anymore. And so I think a lot of us have been waiting in 8th edition for something that's really cool to play, good models. You can take it to a small local or a national ITC or other tournament and not be shoehorned into something like Abaddon and 200 Cultists or something. No, not ripping on anyone if you play that, but it just doesn't feel good when you're forced into that, especially when you consider how big the Chaos Space Marine Codex is, how big the Death Guard Codex is, how big the Thousand Suns Codex is, and all the new models that came out for a lot of those ranges, including new sculpts for Chaos Daemons. And then when you really are stuck with just Abaddon and Cultists, or a Thousand Sun Supreme Detachment or some Nurglings, and you're just kind of cherry picking a handful of units and picking a few good units and throwing them together makes a good list. That's really not great, and so I'm not a fan of that. And I am really hoping that this release gives us the opportunity to do something new. I think if you go to my website on facebook.com/hexfleetvirulus and you pull up that Malefic discipline, I'm trying to pull it up on my computer, but it's saying that it's causing too much of a problem. So let me pull up some of the psychic powers right here on my phone that I think are really the bee's knees. Like I said, a lot of these are based on the Malefic tree. And if you didn't play 7th edition or you didn't get the supplement that had a lot of the chaos powers in it, that tree was really cool, and I really used it a lot. That's where people were summoning things. I was running Renegades and Heretics with zombies in the front, artillery in the back, and then summoners in between, and they would summon screamers or demonettes, and that was really fun to play. Played that at some bigger tournaments and really enjoyed it. But they used a lot of these same names to make similar powers, and I was preparing to be disappointed. I didn't think that we would get these, and then I was happy to be proven wrong. So let's go through these. The first one is the Power Incursion. This version of it lets you basically, with Warp Charge 7, move and still summon. So I assume that means, because it says move as if it was the movement phase, I'm pretty sure that means that you can also advance. So it's the Master of Summoning. He's going to move 6 inches, but he's going to advance. You could summon, I think, up to 12 inches out. So that's pretty good. Considering with summoning, you still have to land like, more than 9 inches outside of the enemy anyway. So on a lot of deployments, because summoning doesn't follow the normal restrictions for Deep Strike, you can do it first turn and probably put a unit of whatever you want outside of just 9 inches of where the enemy is. I think that's pretty cool. You might see this used sometimes, and you can use this psychic power with the Word Bearer stratagem if you decide to make your detachment that your Master of Summoning's in Word Bearers. You can use a 1-point Legion stratagem to reroll some or all of those dice, and this power gives you 4 dice. So if you're rolling 4 dice, rerolling whichever one of those you want, and you're trying to summon something like, I think it would be 12 power level for 30 bloodletters with an icon and an instrument, and they can charge 3d6, which normally you couldn't do that. You couldn't charge them 3d6 because that's a pregame stratagem, but you could still charge 8, and normally you pay 2 command points to bring down a unit that big, and now you get to do it in the first turn when people might not expect it, and you don't pay any command points for it unless you use a Word Bearer's Guide to re-roll some of those dice, but you don't need to. And the Word Bearer's one also keeps you from taking mortal wounds, but this psychic power does that too. So unless you really want it to succeed, you can just cast this without any psychic powers at all. On average, you're going to roll a 14. You only need a 12 even for something like 30 bloodletters or 30 horrors coming down right in front of the other guys. So I think that's pretty strong. Like I said, you can't use some of the pregame stuff to buff that unit, which is unfortunate. And if you summon a character next to them or something, they're not going to get the bonuses from the demon detachment because they're not in a detachment. So like the Khorne reroll aura. But what you can do is take an additional detachment that has like, Supreme Command of Khorne characters or something, like 2 Bloodthirsters and a Demon Prince of Khorne. And then they're going to have that bonus, and the detachment bonus is an aura. So it's still going to affect units that you summon in. So you can first turn, move and advance the Master of Summoning, drop down 30 bloodletters for no command points in front of the other guy. Now they need an 8 to charge, and you also have a Khorne Demon Prince or something on wings that moved up and advanced. His aura is going to still reach and affect those summon units, and now they're going to make that 8 with a reroll. So not as nice as a 3d6, but still really not bad. I'm sure that there's a lot of other things you can maybe do with this. The easiest thing that you can really do that doesn't need anything is bring down 9 flamers. Normally you only see them in squads of 6 if you see them at all, because then it's 1 command point to deep strike instead of 2 with the demon stratagem, but suddenly you can just bring down 9, which is nice because there's a psychic power that affects the unit for +1 to wound, You can only cast it on one unit, so might as well cast it on a unit of 9. So, and the range of those flamers is 12. So you're even more likely to be guaranteed to do something instead of relying on a charge. So if someone uses one or two Masters of Summoning in their list, and they have a lot of demons, you're not going to see the first power incursion used that much, but I think you will see it used. And you can do some cool stuff with it. So the next power that I want to use, or I'm thinking of using, is, and let me just make sure that I'm still alive. Yeah, okay. So seems like I am. Hopefully there's not too much stuttering going on. I apologize if there's any quality issues. Like I said, if I need to, I'll reshoot this video, or I'll just start using the more powerful laptop from now on, which should fix all the issues. And but the second power that I want to talk about is Sacrifice. If you remember the old edition, this used to create a Herald, which was pretty cool. But now, Warp Charge 4, do a mortal wound to a model within 2 inches of the Psyker, then choose a friendly demon unit that's the same Legion as you are. So I assume these are only going to be Codex Heretic Astartes, not Death Guard or Thousand Suns. That would be pretty cool, but I don't think it's going to work. So it's really going to be other demons from whatever that same Chaos Space Marine Codex chapter is. It's within 18. It's a friendly unit. It doesn't say you need line of sight. So I assume you can have like 10 cultists and a Master of Possession hiding behind a wall, and then they just, without even seeing anybody, they just pop, a cultist next to them, and then the result is within 18 inches you heal D3 on one of those demons from your same Legion. And if it was you do a mortal wound to a Warpsmith, if you've got a Warpsmith next to you, and you do this on a demon engine, it's automatically 3, which is pretty cool, especially considering that if it's a Nurgle demon engine, you can also use Blessed Abundance or Fleshy Abundance from the Psychic Power from the Chaos Daemons, and you'll heal D3 on top of that. So you're healing at least 4 to a demon engine if you use that combo. But I think this is going to be pretty good, just doing it normally. What I think this is going to be good on especially is if you have Nurgle Obliterators, and you guys might have seen from the new data sheets that Obliterators are probably going to be around twice as expensive, but they shoot 50% more shots, went up to 4 wounds, and went up to toughness 5. So it's probably going to be kind of tough to budge them. If you have Nurgle ones, then either with a Greater Unclean one with the Bell, on a 4+, you can bring back 1 from each unit per turn. Or if you don't want to rely on that, you can just use the stratagem in Chaos Space Marines to spend 2 command points and bring a dead Obliterator back with 1 wound. And so that's in the movement phase, I think, and that's pretty slick because at this point now with the changes, it's a tougher unit, so you're bringing back something that's probably going to be between 100 and 120 points, and you're spending 2 command points to get 1 back, and it can already shoot again that turn, or fight in melee, because now they also have a melee profile. That's not bad. Well, but it comes back with 1 wound, so what do? You can heal it with an allied Nurgle Demon Psyker, or you just cast this power. Maybe you take this as one of your powers on your Master of Possession in addition to something else that helps Obliterators, and all of a sudden you're healing at D3. So you might bring 1 back to life and heal it back to full strength in the same turn. And I have some other ideas about how to make him tougher to kill in the first place, so you could probably have some games where you really piss people off by just protecting your Obliterators and bringing them back every time they're shot down. And of course, healing demon engines is not a bad thing. I assume that you can do this on a Lord of Skulls. I assume all these work on a Lord of Skulls because that is actually a Chaos Space Marine unit. But I don't own one, so that's not what I'm thinking about. The third power is Mutator Invigoration. That's Warp Charge 7. You can cast this on Possessed or Spawn or Obliterators, but or Mutilators, but really we care about Obliterators. And again, it's within 18 inches, doesn't say it needs line of sight. Really cool. The one that matters is, I think, for Obliterators, it says you can re-roll one of the dice for either strength, AP, or damage when you're firing that turn. So that's really, really good. here's what I think. Especially if you're only bringing one unit, and it's a Slaanesh Obliterator unit, now they shoot 18 shots for 3. So if you double tap them, they're shooting 36 shots in a turn, which is what you used to get out of 9 Obliterators. And now you can get that out of one squad of 3. So you do that, and you can use any of the buffs from the first shooting for the second round too, because it lasts the whole shooting phase. So if you give them prescience, so they're hitting on 2s. If you give them Veterans of the Long War, which is really powerful on them, obviously. Now they're using it for both. So you've got 36 shots that maybe are on 2s, re-rolling 1s, and they're wounding on, +1 to wound. There's another power in here that lets you re-roll 1s to wound on demon units. So you might be hitting on 2s, wounding on 2s, even against knights, toughness 8 or less, depending on how you roll, for 36 shots, which is incredible. Well, if you use this power, you can re-roll one of those strength, AP, or damage, which is really nice because you're investing a lot into that unit. 3 command points to fire twice with a +1 to wound. Well, that's pretty good. But then you also have a command die reroll. So, and then if you bring an allied Thousand Suns Demon Prince or Magnus or just some allied Chaos Demons, Zinch Heralds or something, you can also cast Gaze of Fate, which also lets you reroll. So potentially using this power on that big unit that you're firing 36 shots out of, and you want to just, kill a Castellan or something in one turn, now you could potentially reroll all 3 of those dice with this power and another power and a command reroll. So that takes away a lot of the just rolling poorly at the key moment in the game where you spend a lot of command points. This makes it even more reliable, and this one doesn't cost any command points. So I think that's pretty good. The 4th power is Possession. This one is a little more complicated. Some people really like this. It's only Warp Charge 5. I don't agree that this is that great. Improves your AP by 2. And you can kill enemy characters, turn them into spawn, turn Space Marine or Chaos Space Marine units. I don't know if that's for characters or not. It's kind of unclear. Then you can turn as Greater Possessed instead. And when you destroy vehicles, they will explode automatically. But that's if the Psyker kills them. And how often is the Psyker going to kill a Knight in hand-to-hand? So I'm, for now, going to ignore this until someone tells me I'm wrong. The next power here is Cursed Earth. This was one of my favorite powers in the old Malefic tree because it improved your vulnerable save and prevented deep strike. Well, Warp Charge 7, so it's not that easy to get off, but it's an aura. So for demon units of the same legion, within 6 inches, which potentially is a lot of different units, you improve their vulnerable save by 1 to a max of 3+. I don't think I have to explain how good that is. You're probably, you can easily build a list around 6 of the new, really expensive but really good obliterators hiding behind some screens in the back. And now you've got this guy, maybe from behind the wall, casting his power, so he's not going to get sniped by an assassin. Well, all those obliterators just went from a 5-up invulnerable save to a 4-up invulnerable save. If you are taking them as something else, like let's say you're taking them as Zinch obliterators. Well, there's another power. I'm pretty sure it's also in I know it's in the Thousand Suns book, but I'm pretty sure it's also in the Codex Space Marines list as well. It's the psychic power for... Yep, here it is. Yep, Weaver of Fates. Zinch Heretic Astartes, add 1 to the invulnerable save. Well, you've got a unit of 3 Zinch obliterators. They're at a 5-up invulnerable save. You cast Weaver of Fates, they're at a 4-up invulnerable save. And you cast Cursed Earth, and now that unit's at a 3-up invulnerable save. So on a 4 wound toughness 5 model that already has a 2-up normal save, and you can maybe stand them in cover for 2+ and an additional 1, that is going to make for a pretty hard unit to remove. But even if you're not Tzeentch, I could see this as just being great because it affects several units. You can, even if you can keep up, you can run a bunch of, Mauler Fiends or something. I have 3 Mauler Fiends that I really love, and you can run them, and they suddenly have a 4-up invulnerable save, which any Demons player will tell you there's a really big difference in practical experience, more so than, I think the math would suggest, between having a 4-up invulnerable save and a 5-up invulnerable save. You can just have hot dice where you just make a bunch of 4-ups in a row and there's nothing the other guy can do about it. And so I really like this. And of course it's easy to also to just sit in the back with 3 Forge Fiends or something, and now all of a sudden they all have 4-up invulnerable saves. That suddenly makes me, for the first time, a little more interested in Forge Fiends. But I think where the money is really at for me on this is if you use this with 2 or even 3, probably 2 is more realistic because they're more expensive now, but 2 units of 3 Obliterators each, and they all have 4-up invulnerable saves, that's really good. And there's something particular I want to try that I'll tell you about. But the last power that we have on a new Malefic tree that I saw today and tried to spread across the internet is Infernal Power, Warp Charge 6. Again, doesn't require line of sight. This is just, again, a 6-inch aura, so you can cast Cursed Earth and Infernal Power and just have them both be in the same range. Reroll hit and wound rolls of 1 for attacks made by friendly Legion demon units. So again, that's great for Forge Fiends. Really good for Forge Fiends if they're just sitting in the back and firing. The reroll ones isn't that impressive because you can get that anyway, but now you don't have to have a Chaos Lord babysitting them. And the reroll ones to wound is what I think is really good, especially if you're using high strength guns. And obviously this is incredible with Obliterators. Like I said earlier, you can get to 2-up reroll to hit and 2-up reroll to wound on a night if you're using, especially Veterans of the Long War. That's pretty incredible when you're doing it with 18 or 36 shots, and you can reroll, like let's say you rolled high on the strength to begin with, but then you maybe need to reroll the AP or you need to reroll the damage, which is the really important part, which you can also do with one of the powers. So to bring it all together, I actually, looking at this, I can see lists where the detachment is based around 6 Obliterators, and you maybe take 30 cultists for the command points, and then you take 2 Masters of Possession. And one of them casts Cursed Earth and Infernal Power, and the other one casts Sacrifice and Mutated Invigoration. You can do this with Slaanesh guys. If you had a 3rd Psyker, then the nice thing about Slaanesh is you can cast Feel No Pain on them, which when you have 4 wounds is suddenly really nice. What I am really considering doing is bringing a Gnarlmaw tree from the Demons Codex, and then bringing 6 Nurgle Obliterators, because those guys count as Nurgle Demons, and suddenly they have a 2-up save, and they count as having 2-up in cover. So they have a 2-up save with 2+ to that. So if it's AP 2 or less, you're still getting a 2-up save. You can put them kind of out in the open because the tree is going to give them cover, so you can put it where you have good firing lanes, or you can deep strike into it. Let's see, I was getting another performance drop warning. Hopefully you guys can still see me. If not, I'll have to just redo this whole thing, which I've been doing for like 30 minutes. Hopefully I don't have to do that. But the thing I really like about this is you can also make them then Alpha Legion. So now they're -1 to hit outside of 12 for shooting. And now you bring all these other characters who maybe hide behind the Gnarlmaw because they don't need a line of sight. They just have to be within range for 18 inches or 6 inches for these powers. So hopefully they won't get shot. And they're not that big a model, so I think you can hide them a little bit at least. And suddenly they're casting all these other powers. So let's say you're taking 6 Nurgle Obliterators, which I have, and now you're 2-up save with 2-up cover, 4-up invulnerable save, -1 to hit. If you lose one, you could spend 2 command points to bring one back, and then one of the Masters of Possession can heal that guy, potentially back up to full health in the same turn that he showed up again. The not bad part about this, you can't double tap, but they are much more durable, and you can spend those command points to bring them back. So I think that's pretty incredible. You can also then bring an allied Poxwalker, and he can heal them on top of that. Or he can cast an additional -1 to hit from Miasma of Pestilence. So you could potentially make at least one of those units of Obliterators -2 to hit. And with 4 wounds, they're not going to die right away to Dark Reapers, who are going to ignore those minus to hit penalties. But if I remember right, the Dark Reaper gun is AP -2. So you're still getting a 2-up save versus Dark Reapers, which is pretty cool. So I think there is a lot of potential there. The nice thing about that reroll 1s to hit and wound power, not only does it make them insanely more effective, which is the other part of it, but it means you don't necessarily need to make them Black Legion, so Abaddon can just babysit them and not go anywhere and make them reroll the hits, which is another thing I'm thinking about doing. And you can then make them Alpha Legion, make them -1 to hit in the shooting phase. So, and now that they have strong melee attacks, all these powers are going to be really good if someone actually reaches them. So that's what I think. I think the Malefic Tree is really the biggest part of the Shadowspear leaks for Chaos. But I think that there are a few other interesting things in there. Like the Venom Crawler is not that impressive because it's probably going to be 130, 140 points. I hope it's less. If it's 120 or less, I might be interested. The thing I think that's interesting about it is they can shoot and fight pretty well in melee. The problem is you think it's probably going to die before it gets there. Well, if you have a Master Possession, the enemy doesn't have any snipers or anything, he's running alongside them. They are now getting a 4-up invulnerable save. And when they're shooting those ranged attacks, they're rerolling once to hit and wound, and then they get into melee and they do the same thing, and they heal when they're in melee. They can heal 3 times in a game turn because they heal once automatically, and then they can heal 1 wound each fight phase. So potentially those guys get pretty tough. I think you would need to run a lot of threats with them. What I think is really good is from the rumor engine and from some of the artwork that we saw today, it looks to me like there's going to be another version of the Venom Crawler, and I'm willing to bet it's got a heavy flamer on each side and then a bale flamer on top. So all of a sudden you can move 10 and advance and hit someone with 2 heavy flamers and a bale flamer, and then when you get into combat, suddenly that's where you want to be anyway, because the thing actually seems to be pretty good at combat, especially if you have something like all those rerolls. You're going to have to babysit maybe that Master of Possession a bit if he's running alongside them, but maybe you just surround him with some Khorne Berserkers or something. I think there's a lot of ways you can do it. So if we have another version of the Venom Crawler, or the Venom Crawler is just a lot cheaper than I'm expecting, suddenly I might actually be really interested in the Venom Crawler. If you make the Flamer close combat version of it, if you can do that, I think that might be really, really interesting, especially if it's 120 points or less. New Chaos Space Marines don't seem that great, but I think it's pretty obvious we're going to get a new plastic kit for them, not just a new kit in Shadowspear. So that's going to be pretty nice. Looks like they have at least 1 new gun that we saw today. I like that. We saw today from the artwork released for Abaddon, for Vigilus 2, that we are going to get a new Dark Apostle, because he's in the artwork and he has the exact same stuff as the Demon Rumor Engine. So getting a new Dark Apostle, that's not bad. At least it's going to be probably a pretty nice model. And I really suspect we are also getting a new Chaos Space Marine Terminator kit, or at least 1 new Terminator character, but I don't know why they would do that when Abaddon's coming out. So that would be really neat too. We saw some Terminator stuff in the Demon Rumor Engine. That's not Abaddon. So we saw Lightning Claw and a trophy rack. I really hope that's a new set of Chaos Terminators. And I think we're going to get maybe even a new squad of Havocs. would be nice. I still don't think they're that great, but having a much better kit would be really appreciated. So I think there's a lot more kits coming that are plastic multi-sprue. I think the Venom Crawler is probably going to be released in a month or two as a dual kit version, so I might wait just for that and then magnetize it. Because if there's a flamer version, I think that's much more appealing to me. It's also great against flyers if you need it. You'd be surprised how much damage I do with my flamer plague burst crawlers against all these Eldar flyers that are really popular now, or some of these vultures and valkyries that are getting really popular in the competitive scene, especially in Europe. And so to me, flamers are kind of almost always good. So I think there's a lot more coming besides what we've seen so far from Shadowspear. We really need to see the Obliterator points and the Venom Crawler points. That's going to make a big difference to me. Greater Possessed, I think, are actually pretty good. They're pretty good for the stats. I just don't know that they're good enough, even if they have good stats, for you not to invest in something that's better. That doesn't give up like a Headhunter or Kill Unit point in ITC. Do you really want to run a bunch of characters up the board on foot? Maybe. You can make them Renegade, Chapter, Legion, or Legion Trait, and then they can advance and charge. That's not bad. You can mark them, so if you really wanted to, you could fight again for 3 points with Khorne or something. But right now I'm skeptical. I would consider putting them in a list. They do buff like Venom Crawlers and Mauler Fiends. So that's not bad. I will just have to wait and see. It could possibly be a good unit. I'm just not convinced yet. Beyond all that, I do think we are going to get a new Chaos Space Marine Codex. We know that Chaos Space Marines are probably going to get a bunch of attachments in Vigilus 2, which I guess will be out hopefully in 2 weeks or so, 2-3 weeks. But the French Wargame Studio guys have hinted that Chaos is getting a new codex, or Black Legion is getting its own codex this year. And they also said that Abaddon was going to be the size of Guilliman, Bobby G. And we saw today that he is the size of a Primarch. So they were right about that. And they also said that Space Marines are getting a new codex. And In Control, on one of the other podcasts, he said recently that Space Marines are going to get something that makes them really, really strong later this year. Which to me sounds like would need a new codex. And so those rumors line up. And the last piece of this puzzle that I find really convincing is that several people have posted on different message boards today and yesterday that for independent retailers, the infantry squad of Chaos Space Marines and the Chaos Space Marine Codex are no longer required on the list of items that if you carry GW, you have to carry these. And to me, that makes it pretty obvious that we're getting news to Chaos Space Marine Codex. So I could even, and then the last part is, we're probably going to get in the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, all these releases, but Games Workshop store managers were told that they can't take new, vacations, basically from now until the end of March. So that does line up with some of these releases, but if it was just Abaddon and Vigilus 2 and Shadowspear, I don't know that they would tell them for 3 weeks you can't go on vacation. I think end of the month you have a new Chaos Space Marine Codex, and it's going to hit with the Chaos Space Marine Infantry kit, and then for another 2 or 3 weeks you see a couple more pre-orders for those other new plastic kits that I mentioned. I hope I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I'm half right because all that happens, but it comes out later this year. That would be really odd to me because you have right now a new campaign book, and you have a new box set, and you have a new Abaddon model, and you're replacing some of the data sheets like for Obliterators. So why don't you put in a new codex right now and get rid of some of those issues? Maybe they would just drag it out over like the next 6 months, or 5 months from now. Hey, here's a whole bunch of other new Chaos kits, and a new codex, and hopefully your wallet's recovered by now from March. And they did drag out the Primaris stuff pretty badly when they started. So that's possible. I just really hope they don't do that. But that's why I think we're very likely to get a new Chaos Space Marine Codex. It was the first codex of the edition. The only army that kind of doesn't have a codex right now that we know is getting one is Sisters of Battle. When I was in LVO, I asked the lead 40k designer, I said something about now that all the codexes are out for this edition, and he said something like, well, I don't know that all the codexes are out. And I think he meant more than just Sisters of Battle. And I also said besides Sisters and Genestealer Cult, and he seemed to say there was more on the way. And if we're actually getting rebooted Chaos Space Marine and Space Marine codexes already, that would be why. Man, I hate this little notification about CPU usage. I'm definitely going to use my more powerful laptop. So if this stream is pretty bad, I'm sorry. I will fix that next time. So those are some of the combos that I want to use. That's what I'm thinking of when I'm looking at Shadowspear. I'm very seriously considering getting 2 Masters of Possessions. The powers are much better than I expected. I really would like to know what some of those point costs are. And of course, the one thing we don't know yet, unless it happened to be leaked in the time that I have been on this stream, is what is the Warlord table for the Shadowspear box. Because then I don't know if that's going to be unique to Demonkin, and so you have to take it on like a Greater Possessed if it's an HQ unit, or a Master of Possession, which I'm sure is going to be an HQ unit. At least I hope it is. Maybe you have some other crazy thing that's an aura that buffs like a bunch of Forge Fiends or Obliterators near you even more, and then some of this stuff just gets better. But again, you might want to hide those, new Psychers. They have a 5 vulnerable save. That's not really going to help versus the new Vindicare, which looks pretty over the top. Or, some of the other stuff that you can snipe with in the game now. Like, if you take, I guess they're called Death Skulls Orcs, and you take a Relic Shock Attack gun within 18 inches, you can just easily kill characters with that. Or you can teleport a Deep Strike, within 18 inches of a character and just blow up a character pretty easily with that. So if you have a crappy character that's not very tough, and you already spent like 600 or 700 points on Obliterators or something, and then all of a sudden your Psyker dies in 1 round of shooting, you're going to have a bad day. So we'll have to see what happens with that. Otherwise, I love the new Abaddon model. Have I been a fan of Abaddon for a long time? Yes, I have. Thinks it's background, but I love all my Abaddon stuff. 13th Black Crusade supplement. Or that's a history of it, but I also have the supplement. And, I have Black Legion. And I have limited editions of both of the amazing ADB books, Talon of Horus and Black Legion. I don't think I need to say much more about Abaddon. Everybody's seen it already on the internet. I think the model is great. I will try to get it commission painted. I want it to match my army. Whether I use them a lot is really going to depend on whether there's a new Chaos Space Marine Codex, and that's another reason I think there will be. The French Wargame Studio guys did say that there not only was Abaddon going to be Primarch size, but he was going to have a stat line of a Primarch, which probably, to me sounds really like they're saying he's going to have a new stat line that's more like Demons, or maybe new war gear. And they were right about his size. They posted that like last week before the reveal today. So if he's getting a new stat line, that's really should go probably in a new codex. They can release him as a single clan pack and put a little slip in there that has his new data sheet, because they do that for characters sometimes. But if you do that, it gets really awkward if your codex says something differently, and then maybe you have to put the new data sheet online for people to download. And I just think that's going to get really messy, and Obliterators have a new data sheet, and you have a bunch of new units, and all the point costs are now wrong anyway because you have chapter approved twice. So I think it really makes a lot of sense for them, 1 or 2 weeks after Abaddon comes out, to release a new Chaos Space Marine Codex, or maybe just a new Black Legion Codex, and then just say, hey, everything here in Black Legion replaces the stuff in the Chaos Space Marine Codex. So I don't know what's going to happen, but that's why I think we're going to get a new one. It's just another, hint. And over the last year, I've also heard some of the playtesters say on the different podcasts that Games Workshop is aware that Chaos Space Marine Codex has some problems. So a lot of those units that are now getting new models, like the Infantry Squad, maybe the Terminators, maybe the Dark Apostle, they're not that exciting right now, but imagine if they have brand new rules and all the Legion traits got redone. Maybe all of a sudden some of those units would be pretty cool. It says I'm experiencing performance issues. Okay, so I've been live for almost maybe 45, 50 minutes. I don't actually know if this worked out well because I got some of those notifications. So from now, I'm not going to risk it. I'm going to use my gaming laptop that's a lot stronger. Hopefully that will fix the quality issues. So if you're watching or you're watching later, thank you. This is an experiment. It's the first episode. We will do more and we will do better. But those are my thoughts on the Shadowspear leaks. Those are some of the combos I'm thinking of. And those are some new models that I think are coming out. And those are the rumors I've heard. And that's why I think we're going to get a new Chaos Space Marine Codex pretty soon. I'm excited. Let me know if you've got some units you're excited about or some combos you want to use. Put them in the comments for the video or post them on my Facebook page. Would love to hear from you. Would like to hear if there's something you want different or something you want me to talk about on a future episode. I will try to do this maybe once a week or once every other week. It's not going to be scheduled. I don't have that kind of schedule, but I will try to do this more often. I know a lot of you guys have asked me for YouTube videos. So here I am. It's an experiment. It's like in the warp. Nothing's predictable. We're trying, though, and hopefully you guys are going to enjoy it. I know I'm going to enjoy it. All right, see you guys later.